You're something beautiful, electric chemical.
Present day, 9:40 p.m. London, United Kingdom. Calla Cress had never been called a coward. Tonight she wouldn't give anyone that satisfaction. Her shoes slapping against the ground with a quick snap, she glanced over her shoulder, then stepped off the train at London's St Pancras International Station. He was following her. His gaze burned like a hot brand on her back. Calla calmed her heavy breathing as she made her way along the station's main concourse, clutching her bag to her side. As she approached the glass exit doors, he was right behind her. She patted the shoulder bag she'd carried from Paris and increased her pace, then quickened through immigration. Not only could she lose him in the crowds, but she would also make sure the thug stayed off her tail for good. Calla shuffled through the main foyer of the station, brimming with tired night travellers. They pushed past her. The air was cool and tinged with the scent of smoke and mist, and the street's stillness was a stark contrast to the busyness inside the terminal. St Pancras, the cathedral of railways that lorded over the city with its Gothic spires, towered above her. Her eyes tracked to where the arched glass ceiling merged with London's growing skyline. In a motion as automatic as the turning of an hourglass, she moved. Her limbs weakened as she shook off the numbness in her hands and the tingling under her skin. She pressed on with laboured breaths and felt the terrible, painful results of running for so long. The balls of her feet screamed for relief, for rest, for anything that would slow the pounding of her stride. Gasping for breath, Calla turned back to look over her shoulder and stared into the night, wondering if she should have stopped to phone the police. Her tendons tightened as they protested against the harsh treatment they had received. Calla held herself upright, bracing against the chill of the night. Through resolute breaths, she whisked down Euston Road toward Camden Town Hall, which stood next to a barely visible underground garage. With shaky legs and a hungry desire to escape, Calla set off for the underground parking lot behind Camden Town Hall, her muscles burning with every step. Her arms and shoulders tensed as she pushed hard on the door. She stood there, listening to the sound of a car's tyres rolling away. Then she heard footsteps behind her. The sound struck her ears as the parking lot door pushed open. More tightness formed in her abdomen, shooting discomfort through her body and reduced her concentration. She had to move and snap free of the trance while dragging heavy feet across the concrete. Keys rattling in her hand, Calla found her silver Maserati on the lower third parking level where she'd left it that morning. With a grunt, she slotted the key in the keyhole, sank into the seat, and wove the car out into the bleak street. She slowed the Maserati to a halt at a red light. Her palms rested on the smooth leather, her knuckles pale, but she clamped down on the wheel tightly and didn't let it out of her grasp. Tiny beads of sweat trickled down her forehead and stung her eyes as she shaded the high beams from the car behind her. Blindingly bright in a gleaming dark Range Rover, sure enough, he was there. Brute! The light changed and she launched off and her foot slammed on the gas pedal. She checked to see if he would chase, but he stayed in place, watching as she went. Then he made a beeline for her rear bumper. She swerved around a white Toyota and the Maserati picked up speed, starting a 60-mile-per-hour run through London's tight streets. Her heart thundered in her chest as she manoeuvred in and out of traffic. She could hear the squeal of his tyres as he steered his vehicle behind hers. The car shot forward down Park Lane after she slammed the pedal to the floor. She checked the mirror and saw his headlights drawing closer. His determination made her nervous. Fifth gear looked good right about now. She ramped up the engine, and the sports car wound through medieval streets, testing its motor limits as she took to the city's eastern section. The Maserati gunned down an empty road. Soon the ancient Roman city wall loomed ahead in the haze of the distant landscape, its curved edges and straight lines visible. Hands trembling, she slammed the accelerator. Her tyres smoked. She fed more gas to the engine and the needle of the speedometer crept past 70 miles per hour. When she'd peeled off into a one-way street, Calla rechecked her rearview mirror, then swung into Bishopsgate's banking district toward Monument. The Range Rover clung to her tail. Eyes ahead, she sped toward London Bridge that spanned the River Thames. Calla clenched her jaw and forced her gaze on the road, trying not to look at the black hulk that followed behind. This was the only place she could lose him. What did he want? A hiss left her lips. Calla whizzed across the box girder structure high above the river, reflecting the capital city's lights below. The Thames flowed fast in the rain, a massive stream of life snaking through the city of London. She twisted the wheel and roared onto South Bank. The river was a deep black, as she curved into a deserted street behind a line of dated warehouses along the Thames. Sure that she'd broken the speed limit and half a dozen traffic laws, Calla winced. She couldn't think about it as the Range Rover surged forward, driving her out of the intersection, closer to the scattered office buildings. Her eyes locked with a startled man pushing a stroller across the road and a woman leading a toddler by the hand. Her fist slammed against the horn. She hit the brakes. The family stood frozen in front of her sports car, and the decision sent her car spinning several times. Calla's vision turned to streaks of bright light and dark shapes. She couldn't hear the engine roar any longer, but a ringing in her ears that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her pulse throbbed below her lip and behind her eyes. Though she hadn't thought it possible, Calla was even more terrified than before. A stench of burning rubber stole past her nostrils as her tyres squealed a shrill of terror, and the vehicle came to a quick halt, meters from the towering Shard skyscraper. Her gaze flicked to the rearview mirror, and she lifted her head high, then turned off her engine as the bewildered family hastened toward London Bridge Station. The Shard loomed above the streets of London like a glowing white pyramid whose peak cast a cone of light in the thick London fog. Calla squinted toward it, her ears ringing. Where was he? The sidewalks and roads were not busy, and as she waited, the seconds ticked by. The drone of a hungry vehicle throbbed in her veins as the Range Rover revved its engine. A moment later, the headlights of the steel beast dimmed. Calla bit her lip. She leaped out of her car, her head snapping left and right, looking for anyone to help but finding only the quiet of the night. A streetlight flickered on and off, giving her an eerie feeling. Despite the warm air, she shivered. Hands on hips, she wanted him gone. Her legs trembled with rage as she marched toward the waiting beast. A figure in dark military attire sprang from the Rover, then hastened in her direction. Her pulse pounded in her ears, and she stopped in the middle of the street, feeling alone and exposed. She watched him step closer. His build was large, and his face hid in the shadows. She wiped beads of sweat from her brow, and her breath came in quick gasps as he advanced and lunged. She swung a punch in a full arc. Calla sidestepped the blow as it zipped past her nose, and her pulse vibrated in her fingertips. He struck again. She couldn't move fast enough. The brusque strike slammed into a shoulder blade. Off balance, her feet tangled, and she collapsed backward. Her eyes closed instinctively as she fell, and she braced herself for the concrete that would collide with her back. She rolled with the blow so that the pavement wouldn't knock the wind out of her. When she sprang up again and took a moment to regain her bearings, she coughed and spat blood onto the gravel. It splattered like raindrops onto the oil-stained concrete. He grunted at her. She wasn't done. Her fist caught him in the jaw and he crashed to the ground, opening a 1-centimetre gash on his chin. He lay still, unconscious for a few seconds. She waited for him to open his eyes, but he lay still on his side. Her shoulder still burned from his blow, a strike that had forced an acidic taste in her mouth. She wiped trickling blood from her jawline. Though the wound stung like fire, she eyed him without blinking. What the heck do you want? Silence. I don't have it, she said. He regained consciousness and stared at her. Her eyes darted to the side. He stirred, then shot up. She froze. Eyes on her, he kept closing the distance between them. Calla reached behind her back and pulled a strap, the one that secured the backpack, toward her waist so he could see it. Her other hand stretched for the side of his neck. He caught it mid-air and gripped it in a lock as his other grip snatched the bag strapped around her waist. His eyes locked on the harness before he reached for the bag. The manuscript was secured within, and her mind raced as she tried to think of a way to make him let go. She screamed, "Stop! Give that back!" He bolted toward the Shard's entrance with bag in hand and shot inside Europe's tallest building.
You're something beautiful, electric chemical. You take my breath away, feel my emotions